let's just start off with the question. Do you think athletes should be positive role models for kids and young adults?
Well, if you think about it, that's kind of a weird question to ask because athletes are already role models. If you look at it, because they're the American dream. They're what everybody needs to be. They worked hard to get to where they are, which is what everybody needs to do.
Well, how come they don't look up to people such as lawyers and doctors and teachers?
Because we already have enough lawyers and doctors and teachers. They already got there because of what they did. We have enough of them. We don't have. There's more teachers, lawyers, and doctors than there are athletes. More lawyers than there are people in the NFL. They're like that 1 in a million people that everybody strives to be.
Okay, so are you saying kids rather would be 1 in a million than be just like everybody else with lawyers and doctors and teachers and firemen and police officers and things like that?
Well, yeah, because people don't say, "Hey, yo, look at this teacher. He did so fantastic. He's gonna be on the news. He's world famous." They don't say about that. They say the same thing. They say that thing about athletes in the NFL and NBA.
So, are you kind of saying they kind of want to be like rich and famous and get all the glory and stuff, well, instead of being like lawyers and doctors and things like that? Just they're just there. They live the same life every day. Do the same thing.
If you think about it, they're both kind of the same thing. They both worked hard. Doctors worked hard to get to where they are. Athletes worked hard to get to where they are, and so on. So either of them could be role models. So it's just a matter of how they got there and what their last, I don't know what you say, what they ended up to become. That's the only difference between them.
But they save people's lives and they do so much good for our community.
My name is Tony Fabre, and I go to NCAS, and I'm a sophomore. I'm 15.
Thank you. What is your position on role models? Well, athletes being role models for kids and young adults.
I think that they should not.
Why?
Because if an athlete is like smoking weed and doing drugs, and then another kid wants to be like them, then they're gonna follow that path.
Okay, then how come do you think kids should be looking up to other role models like lawyers and doctors?
Yes.
Why?
Because they're going to a higher path. Not saying that they don't go through the other stuff, but it just, in my perspective, they go to bigger things. But I'll just depend.
This is Mr. Macklin, assistant principal at NCAS inside of Montbello, and we're just going to ask you a few questions. First, what is your position on athletes being role models for kids and young adults?
Well, my position on whether or not athletes should be role models, I think the real role models are the people who are raising our kids, our adults, our grandparents, our parents, members of the community who are doing positive things in their lives to make good examples for our students. Athletes, they're in the spotlight, but they're not necessarily role models.
How come kids don't look up to people like lawyers and doctors and police officers say?
Well, lawyers and doctors aren't necessarily marketed on mainstream television the way athletes are. I mean, Nike commercials, you have famous athletes who are being endorsed by McDonald's and things like that, so that's what our young people are seeing on a regular basis. They aren't necessarily seeing the doctors and the lawyers and things like that. The most recent examples that I can think of as far as doctors and lawyers being made good examples of it on a consistent basis would be the Cosby Show, where Bill Cosby and his wife, Claire Huxtable, he was a doctor and she was a lawyer. But how many TV shows and how many things are marketed on a regular basis these days that put successful professions such as those, as well as people of color, in those professions. So that's not really existing very much nowadays. So you will have the conflict of people idolizing athletes because they are mainstreamed a lot more than the doctors and the lawyers of today.
That's well, thank you. That's it. Lauren?
Hi, this is JC, representative from the Boys and Girls Club here at Montbello campus, and we're just going to ask you a few questions.
All right, JC.
Hold on. Does that mean we're closer? Can you hear?
Okay, so JC, how do you feel about How do you feel about athletes being role models for kids and young adults?
I think that athletes are role models in some way. They are, in some way they aren't. As far as kids having aspirations to be like, say, LeBron James or Kevin Durant, that's always good. That's a role model-esque type thing. But other than that, as far as the sports figures, yes. Real life, maybe not. They need to find somebody that's a little bit closer to them that they can be like or aspire to be like in, in real life aspects. But as far as sports and stuff, yeah.
Okay. How come they don't look up to people like, say, as like doctors and lawyers and firemen and policemen?
You do have kids or students or whatever that do look up to firemen, lawyers, doctors and such, but it's also the glitz and the glamour of seeing, these guys on television, the money that they have. Kids are like, look, I want to be on television, I want to be famous, whatever the case may be, not knowing what all comes in line with being famous. But if it was something that was publicized, like, lawyers make millions of dollars also, doctors make millions of dollars, or, saving lives and stuff like that, which kids were interested in, then I think they would look up to more people in those fields.
Okay. So pretty much what you're saying is kids rather have, fame and money and everything instead of saving lives and, teaching other kids and say stuff like that.
I think it's pretty much, it just comes down to, like I said, the glitz and glamour. Being famous, being on television, things like that is what kids see. They don't see a lot of these lawyers and doctors and stuff like that, or people like that, around them, in the community and such. So they refer back to what's on television. So, with that being said, I think if a lot of doctors, lawyers, and all that were around these kids more, they would see the opportunities that they would have in those fields, but they don't see a lot of it.
Thank you for talking with us.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Taco, cut it.